be something. Are you ready for us? 'Cause I'm ready for you. Are you ready for us? We can be something. Are you ready for us? Oh, 'cause I'm ready for you, ready for you. Are you ready for us? We can be something.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to another GeekaWhat video, and in this video I'm going to be building an awesome gaming PC build for 2021 and 2022. I can't believe I'm saying that already. I'll be running you through all the components I selected and why for today's build, including a latest Ryzen 5 processor, an RTX 3060 Ti, and the brand new Bitfenix Prodigy M 2022, a really cool remaster of an awesome case that really does feel like a bit of a throwback. Not only will I be talking you through all the components today and putting the system together, but I'll also be testing it out later with some of my favourite titles and some of your guys' favourite games as well. Let's dive into it though after a quick ad from today's video sponsor. The Western Digital Black SN850 is a blazing fast Gen 4 NVMe drive that provides supreme performance and killer speeds. With up to 2 terabytes of capacity, you can upgrade your system today with super fast storage. Insane read speeds reach 7,000 megabytes a second, with write speeds in the region of 5,300. That's 5.3 gigabytes every single second. Plus, support for PlayStation 5 means that it isn't just your PC that's ready for the star storage treatment. Check out the full WD Black SN850 range, now available in a heatsink version from Ebuyer.com, linked in the description below. As far as the components for this build go, this is a really well-balanced system, if I do say so myself. At the heart of the PC is AMD's Ryzen 5 5600X. 6 cores, 12 threads, awesome clock speeds, and an efficient TDP make it a fantastic choice for the build. I'll be coupling it up with a 16GB RAM kit from Corsair. This is their brand new Vengeance RGB RT. A little bit of white accent in will also match our white case as well, so a nice colour scheme tie in there. As far as the cooler goes, to keep the processor nice and cool, NZXT's Kraken X53 is on the slightly higher end, but with their Air addressable RGB fans that we can set to white for a nice black and white aesthetic, 240mm cooler and infinite logo design make it a great aesthetic choice. If you wanted to save some money, cheaper 240mm coolers are available, and we'll pop some of our recommended options on your screen now. In terms of storage for this system, I've gone ahead and picked up WD's Black SN850. This is a great Gen 4 NVMe drive with some awesome speeds at a really nice price point. Read speeds in the region of 7 gigabytes a second, while writes are a little bit lower at the 5.5 gig mark. Still a super fast Gen 4 NVMe drive, and the price point, whoopsie, these CPU's got a mind of its own, and the price point is really, for me, what sells this drive. Now, of course, if we're going for a 5th gen Ryzen processor, a Gen 4 NVMe drive, we do need a B550 or X570 motherboard. MSI's B550 Mortar is an awesome option. It's got everything we need, like a built-in rear I/O shield, support for the latest Gen 4 drives, and 4 RAM DIMM slots. Awesome for upgradability and making sure we're nicely future-proofed. Talking of future-proofing, the power supply also works well in this regard. This is Deepcool's DQ650. It's fully modular, 80 plus gold, and has a 10-year warranty. The power supply is obviously not quite that interesting compared to some of the other components today, but it is really important that you get it right and don't cheap out on this unit. The next component on the hit list then is the graphics card. Now, I appreciate this is one of the most contentious components in any system. GPU shortages are still rife, and we're going to make a video soon explaining why this might end soon, why it probably won't end soon, why the whole situation's come about, and just try and understand why the GPU crisis has gotten so bad. And really just discuss why things have got to the point they are. This is even more sad considering how good some of the RTX 3000 series cards are, specifically the 3060 Ti, the GPU choice for this system. I was lucky enough to pick up a Founders Edition GPU from Nvidia, but to tell you the truth, any 3060 Ti, which fits inside our 2022 Prodigy M, is what I'd recommend going for. Over in the States at least, and here in the UK, I'm seeing people have more luck finding GPUs. That's not to say they're miraculously all back in stock. Spoiler alert, they are not. However, people are winning stuff like Newegg lotteries here in the UK. Stuff is coming back into stock gradually on select SKUs with different retailers, and you don't actually have to refresh every 10 seconds anymore to get hands-on with a card. You just might pay a little bit more for it. This card though is going to be awesome for 1080 and 1440p gaming, at 60 to 100 frames a second in some of their biggest titles. We'll be testing Apex Legends, Valorant, Warzone, Fortnite, Cyberpunk, and more later on, so hold tight. Keep buckled in and don't go anywhere because there's some really interesting numbers you're about to see. Now that's sort of our core components, but what about this? Bitfenix's brand new Prodigy M 2022. Now in order to explain why this case is so interesting to me, we need a quick James story time. Back in 2014 when I was just a little boy, picture on your screen now, I was looking to build my first gaming PC and this thing was what stood out to me. I think I remember seeing Linus Tech Tips turn one into a router. Editor Dan is going to have to dig out loads of footage for this video. Sorry, Dan. And I just thought it looked really cool. It had the handles, it had the airflow, it had nice mesh, it had some really bright colours. It was just a really cool chassis that unfortunately I never bought because instead I went for some $30 crap case from a company called like CIT. I could never quite afford the Prodigy M and here we are. Bitfenix has sent me one and I am so bloody excited. If there was any case that I'd want a company to remaster, it would be this one, and that makes me so happy. I'm sorry, but is that not the coolest case you have ever seen? It's available in lots of different colours. It's now got tempered glass on the side, a radiator mount up top. I believe it's got support as well for both ITX and micro ATX motherboards. The old case had different versions for different motherboards. This is all just the one. The tempered glass side panel looks really nice as well. You've got 3 fans included by the looks of things and an RGB strip with a remote control. Really nice touch. It's kind of reminiscent of one of those old Macs. The only sort of really quirky thing about it is that the I/O is actually on the rear side panel. This is obviously because they couldn't integrate it into these sort of handles, which have actually been reinforced since the older model, to make it kind of really great for like a LAN party or something like that. As usual, I'd recommend you take off all of the side panels now, all the dust filters, everything like that, to make the case a bit easier to access before we go ahead and screw the motherboard in. For now though, we want to go ahead and install our motherboard. We'll try and circle as best we can the standoffs that we need to add in or use. So by default, you've got these 4 silver standoffs in each corner. These are for an ITX motherboard by default, but we need to add in an extra one here, and here, circled on the motherboard tray like so, in order to install our B550M mortar. You'll get these extra standoffs included in a bag in your case's accessory box. Whack these in, slide the motherboard into place, and there's no I/O shield to worry about either, as that's pre-installed on this MSI MAG motherboard. Awesome stuff, looking good. Now the next component I think I want to install is the radiator. Now this actually mounts at the top of the case, which is quite normal, but because the motherboard is upside down, it's inverted. I am a little bit concerned about tube length, making sure everything reaches and fits and that kind of thing. Just to be on the safe side, I think we are going to make sure that the tubes on the radiator are on the right hand side, as I think that will make it easier to avoid the GPU, which is of course going to be around about here in between the cooler and the radiator itself. The cooler I've gone for is from NZXT, and actually going ahead and installing it is pretty easy. We first need to fasten these posts around the processor itself. You can do this a little something like so, before then actually fastening the radiator to the top of the case, and then we'll cover off actually securing it onto the processor in just a second. And then it's a simple case of popping on this metal bracket around the cooler, dropping that onto the 4 pins around our processor and fastening down with thumb screws. You can even then turn around the NZXT logo to make sure it's oriented in the right way. First we need to spin it upside down so that when we put the case back the right way around for the logo at the front, that everything works perfectly. Once we've done this, we can move on to the GPU and the power supply. I think I'm going to get the power supply in first of all, get everything nicely juiced up and ready to go before adding in the GPU later. In terms of wattage, we talked about this a bit earlier, but 650 watts is genuinely going to be enough for the system today. You don't want to go for a power supply that's too big either. This is sort of on the upper end, as if you can see here, it will start to affect our clearance in terms of tubing and GPUs and radiators and all that good stuff. This is just about going to work, but it will be a little bit tight. That is the nature of going for a smaller form factor chassis like this Prodigy M. You do also get this nice little bracket, which you can just go ahead and remove to install the power supply now, slide the bracket back in, and that's pretty much all there is to it. Power up your motherboard and your CPU. We'll deal with the GPU power later, once the graphics card is actually installed into the chassis. Last up today then, and the final component to actually install is the GPU. Now the 36 3060 Ti is my favourite of the 3000 series of cards. I think it's the best positioned in terms of price to performance, at least at MSRP, and in course of general functionality and performance. It's a beast at 1080p. In fact, this card is probably slightly overkill for 1080p, allowing you to crank things up to max and not really worry too much. In this case, it's actually going to install upside down, which is a little bit peculiar, but with the airflow that we've got from our front little fan and from the radiator here, it should work all in all really quite well. The silver colour is also slightly lighter and works well with the colour scheme, especially once our fans are illuminated white, our memory's lit up white, and the GPU is in with its silver aesthetic. Go ahead and remove the PCIe lanes, pull back the clip on the slot, and slide the GPU in, a little something like this. Lovely stuff. We just need to make sure we screw it down nice and tight as well to stop it flopping about, but there's just about enough clearance there for our airflow, and actually I think the build looks really quite cool. With a couple of RGB strips, our fans all in RGB mode, and the side panel on, I'm super excited to see how this looks. And I should add, you can't put a fan at the front because that's where the power supply is, so my comment earlier, it wasn't Bitfenix's fault, it was my fault. I think I was thinking of the old ITX version of this chassis where the power supply wasn't located at the front. In terms of seeing how good this thing looks though, let's do that now in typical GeekaWhat style before moving on and looking at the performance figures in an epic glam montage. I'll see you in a sec, but first, roll that montage.
Are you ready for us? 'Cause I'm ready for you. Are you ready for us? We can be something. Are you ready for us? 'Cause I'm ready for you. Are you ready for us? To be something new.
As far as performance on this system goes, we gathered some really impressive numbers. And as usual, we'll kick things off by giving you a summary of all the different results that we were able to gather. I'm going to take a deeper dive title by title in just a moment's time, but as ever, we like to test a wide variety of games to give you guys a really good idea of this system's performance. GTA 5 is the first of those focus titles. 1080p and 1440p both provided some pretty similar results, so let's look at the higher resolution. Here at 1440p high settings, we got 135 frames per second on average, with 122 and 109 for the 90 and the 99th percentile result. We tested, as ever, using the game's inbuilt benchmarking modes. If you'd like to compare these results with your own system at home, copy our settings and give it a go. Moving on to Watchdogs Legion then, next up, 1440p high settings with DLSS enabled. DLSS is, of course, Nvidia's fancy AI-backed resolution scaler. We got 106 frames per second on average. Tested once again in the game's inbuilt benchmarking mode. What about something with ray tracing though? Call of Duty's Black Ops Cold War at 1440p, high settings with ray tracing and DLSS enabled looked phenomenal. The lighting, the shadows, the reflections. This isn't sponsored by Nvidia, it looks fantastic, which is why the current stock situation makes me even more sad. 98 frames per second as well wasn't too bad considering we did leverage the power of ray tracing, though if you do turn ray tracing off and leave DLSS on, you can actually increase your frame rate to about 152 frames a second. 90 and 99th percentiles were strong, showing consistent frame rates that didn't particularly waver, contributing to this system's impressive performance figures. Talking of impressive and performance in the same sentence, Apex Legends. 1440p high settings, we got just shy of 120 frames per second on average, with 95 and 83 for the 90 and the 99th percentile results. Moving on to Valorant next up, here at 1440p high settings, we got nearly 400 frames a second, 377 FPS from this 3060 Ti. I'll link in the card section now our review of a 3060 Ti over on our website, GeekaWhat.com, so if you'd like to see some fancy graphs and comparisons, that is the place to go and take a look. What about something like Cyberpunk though? A game that's been very, very difficult to run on pretty much any system with even like an RTX 3090. Well, I'm glad to report that 1440p high with DLSS enabled, we got 102 FPS. That's around 30 FPS more than with DLSS disabled, while turning ray tracing on knocks the frame rate down quite a bit to 61, but still gives you a playable experience that visually looks fantastic. Cyberpunk is a game that really works with ray tracing. It's just very, very difficult for a lot of systems to run. Moving on to Fortnite next up, and this is a game that you guys constantly ask me for. I've tested it at competitive competitive settings, but first, let's take a look at high settings. We got 164 FPS at 1080p high, and visually, I think the game looked great. But I know you guys love maximum frame rate, so we turned everything down to low, but set the render distance to far for competitive settings. This gave us 244 frames per second on average, with the game looking great. That's over 4 times the refresh rate of a standard monitor, and pretty much double the refresh rate of a high refresh gaming monitor. So really solid results here. Call of Duty's Warzone is our final title today, and we tested this at 1440p high with DLSS on. This gave us 115 frames per second on average, with 90 and 99th percentile result in the region of 98 and 82. And with that just about wraps up our gaming benchmarks for this awesome Bitfenix Prodigy M remaster. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big old like rating, make sure to get subscribed if you aren't already. Thanks for tuning in though, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.